Everybody's talking about one of the most hyped IPOs in recent memory, Tesla Motors.
And I basically said, well, now, wait a minute. I've accepted everybody's arguments of why we can't do this. But here's this small startup company in California, and they think that they can get all of these figures.
You don't want to own this stock. You don't want to lease it. Heck, you shouldn't even rent the darn thing. This man is an answer for everything.
Private enterprise will not ever lead a space frontier.
Musk stepped down from his role as chairman to settle a government lawsuit.
It was announced today the SEC sued Musk on Thursday, accusing him of misleading investors.
Tesla is stumbling and crashing its way to the bottom of the NASDAQ.
He charged Elon Musk with fraud.
Mr. Musk is gambling with the shareholders.
Well, I mean, here's the problem with Tesla. It's a cold stock.
But the business absolutely is lousy, and people are finally starting to figure it out.
The SEC filed securities fraud charges against Elon Musk.
On April Fool's Day, Musk mixed his optimism with dark humor. On social media, in the midst of widespread concerns Tesla might collapse, he tweeted this: "We are sad to report that Tesla has gone completely..."
Tesla stock voted by Wall Street as the least likely to succeed.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk is the subject of a new controversy.
What is it about you that seems to invite skepticism?
Do people get upset at you if you do certain things?
2, 1.
This stuff is of sci-fi novels and movies, and it's so far away, but every time I hear you speak, it's like, well, no, this stuff is sitting, it's right here.
I'm interested in things that change the world or that affect the future in wondrous new technology, where you see it and you're like, wow, how did that even happen? How's that possible? I like creating things that have never been seen before or even imagined before.
We see the Tesla Roadster this year?
Absolutely, this year. Should be coming out in about 6-7 months. I've driven you in that car. Well, I think it's because we're doing these things that seem unlikely to succeed.
He told me that he was waking up in the middle of the night and there would be tears on his face.
In 2008, the rocket company is not going well. It had 3 failures. The car company is hemorrhaging money, and the American economy has tanked in the worst recession since the Great Depression.
And I'm getting divorced, by the way. That was definitely the worst year of my life.
Critics say you can't do this. Your answer to them is,
we've done it.
How many people predicted in 2008 that SpaceX would have done these things by 2018? I think 0.
It's been 17 years to get to this point, from 2002 to now. Incredible amount of hard work and sacrifice from a lot of people that gotten to this point.
So a fourth failure
would have been absolutely game over.
Done.
Done.
SpaceX bankrupt.
3, 2, 1. Lift off.
I really think this would work. When I see the rocket lift off, I see like 1,000 things that could not work, and it's amazing when they do.
I'm hopeful that the first people could be taken to Mars in 10 to 12 years. I think it's certainly possible for that to occur. The thing that really matters in the long term is to have a self-sustaining city on Mars.
Things have been going wrong for a long time at Tesla when it comes to profitability. So it's really not about one quarter. It's about whether or not you're going to make the leap of faith that Tesla is actually going to make a profitable company. Get out of the stock now. I mean, I think there's nothing but accidents waiting to happen.
And we've been fortunate, and at least thus far they have succeeded. Crazy things can come true.
You put $90 billion of brakes into solar and wind, to Solyndra and Fisker and Tesla and Enter1. I mean, I had a friend who said you don't just pick the winners and losers, you pick the losers.
Making a car company successful is monumentally difficult. It is absurd that Tesla is alive. Absurd. Excruciating effort. 100-hour weeks by everyone.
By everyone here at Tesla.
Yes.
Either be a multi-planet species and out there among the stars, or we will be a single-planet species until some eventual extinction event, either natural or man-made.
Everybody loves those Teslas. They don't make money.
He hasn't been able to build cars. This is the problem.
Absurd that Tesla is alive. Absurd.
He's a self-confessed manic depressive. He is known to use recreational drugs. Believe me, there are people who can run an automobile company a lot better than he can. It's like Elon Musk has been beamed down from another planet to show us mortals how to run a company.
And a few years ago, people were laughing at you. Now, not so
Sleep
much.
for a few hours, work. Sleep for a few hours, work. 7 days a week. And it was like, some of those days must have been like 120 hours or something nutty. The other option would have been Tesla dies. Tesla cannot die. Tesla is incredibly important for the future of sustainable transport.
Back 11 years today, Tesla had made one car, that car. That's serial number one. It's pretty wild to think that 11 years ago today, we had made literally one car, and a year from now, we will have made 1 million.
Well, by 2030, electric car sales are expected to surge to 30 million vehicles worldwide.
Our goal all along has been to try to get the rest of the car industry to go electric.
I feel like we're at an inflection point. The car companies have announced $300 billion that they're investing in making EVs.
Comfortable that we'll be able to achieve at least 500,000 cars a year by 2020.
500,000 cars by 2020.
Per year, yeah.
Try to make change as opposed to just reading about.
They made their third quarter targets. Every car company in the world, I think every boardroom said, oh my goodness.
If you study engineering and you figure out how to design new things, then it's relatively easy to start a company. You just need to get a few like-minded people with you and then focus on creating a prototype, a compelling prototype as soon as possible. And that's all there is to it. And you might, if you try it a few times, you may or may not succeed. But I think sometimes people fear starting a company too much. To have to say, really, what's the worst that could go wrong? You're not going to starve to death. You're not going to die of exposure. What's the worst that could go wrong?
I think we should try to take the set of actions that are most likely to make the future good for humanity.
Pedal to the metal here. Each month that passes is literally costs us tens of millions of dollars. We need to appreciate that.
It's been one of the darkest days on Wall Street in recent memory.
The very opposite of being up in an ivory tower. I want to be in the middle of a battle. And so that means putting my desk in the middle of the factory.
My gosh, why is everyone getting all on his case? If he wants to get high on a Joe Rogan podcast, and you let him be the individual that he is. He's a force in society that's like a cross-pollination of Thomas Edison and Tony Stark. You cross-pollinate those two folks, you get Elon Musk.
That's like some superhero type shit.
Have SpaceX be the company that brings humanity to Mars, and I hope I see it while I'm still alive.
You're 47. What is the likelihood that you personally will go to Mars?
70%.
What is your hope in terms of the impact you will leave on culture?
I think what I'd like to do is help solve some important problems.
All the companies we interviewed in Silicon Valley, Tesla is the only one that survived a decade later. All the others went bankrupt.
You think that you are going to be the General Motors of the future?
I would describe it differently. I think really the goal of Tesla Motors is to help accelerate the advent of the electric vehicle. The whole point of Tesla is to accelerate the advent of electric vehicles.
Erratic, unstable, reckless, operatic.
I'm just being me. The system would have failed if I was truly erratic. Try to adhere to some CEO template.
Said that we got lost along the way with our space program. What did you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is in 1969, we were able to go to the moon. And here we are over 3 decades later, and we can barely get to low Earth orbit. All right. Am I supposed to say something? No, I can't hear. Oh, okay. I think this is a fantastic thing, but there's going to be even better things in the future, and we're super excited for what's happened and what will happen.
150 miles above Africa, the capsule undocked from the International Space Station. This critical test flight paves the way for a Dragon mission carrying astronauts.
It's been 17 years. We still haven't launched anyone yet, but hopefully we will later this year. So that would definitely be the culmination of a long dream for me and a lot of people at SpaceX, for sure. We should have a base on the moon, like a permanently
occupy a human base on the moon and send people to Mars, you know, and build a city on Mars. That's what we should do. I mean, I should say that, you know, when I was a kid, I didn't really have any grand designs. I mean, the reason I started programming computers was because I liked computer games. It was very violent. It was not a happy childhood. I was almost beaten to death, if you call that bullied. I learned that if I wrote software and sold it, then I could get more money and buy better computers.
He was interested in computers early. At the age of 12, he wrote the software for a video game and sold it. Against his parents' wishes, he set his sights on the software capital of the world.
I really want to work on new technology, so I want to get to Silicon Valley. I moved first to Canada by myself when I was 17, and then a few years later I moved to the US. Writing software during the summer of '95, trying to make useful things happen on the internet. I wrote something that allowed you to get maps and directions on the internet, and then something that allowed you to do online manipulation of content. Things were pretty tough in the early going. I didn't have any money. In fact, I had negative money. I had huge student debts. Or, in fact, I couldn't afford a place to stay and an office. So I rented an office instead, because I got a cheaper office than I could get a place to stay, and then I just sort of slept on the futon and showered at the YMCA on Pageville and El Camino.
Musk sold his first computer program at the age of 12, and he hasn't stopped selling since.
In '95, there weren't very many people on the internet, and certainly nobody was making any money at all. Most people thought the internet was going to be a fad.
There were basically only about 6 of us. There were myself, my brother, who I convinced to come down from Canada, and a friend of my mom.
This is an ATM. What we're going to do is transform the traditional banking industry.
He started an online banking firm that he grew into PayPal, a system for making purchases on the internet.
And you sold PayPal to eBay for what?
It was about $1.5 billion.
So we actually lived in the office, and we would sleep on the floor in the evening and go shower at the YMCA the next morning. And then we would be ready to go before some of our employees would arrive, so they wouldn't think we were actually sleeping in the office.
After PayPal, I decided I wanted to get back into electric vehicles and make something happen in that arena. It wasn't as though in creating these companies that we thought that we would be successful. I thought that the most likely outcome was failure, but it was still worth doing. Well, I didn't really think Tesla would be successful. I thought we would most likely fail. But I thought that we at least could address the false perception that people had that an electric car had to be ugly and slow and boring like a golf cart.
So you didn't expect the company to be successful? Then why try?
If something's important enough, you should try, even if the probable outcome is failure.
Elon Musk was just very honest, and I really think back then he may have thought the idea would survive, but his company would not.
How much more has the project cost than you thought it was going to cost?
Probably twice as much, I think, ish, thereabouts.
How much did you put into this company? Don't tell me you don't know.
No, I do. It's about $55 million.
$55 million of your own money.
It's very difficult to start companies and quite painful. I think that's important to bear in mind. I don't know if that's probably not encouraging. Let me put it this way, if you need inspiring words, don't do it.
You had that third failure in a row. Did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up. I mean, I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated. My grandfather moved with all his kids and my mom and everyone to South Africa because he wanted to use it as a base of exploration. So he had this little plane that he liked to fly all over the place, and he flew it all through Africa and Asia, and he was the first person to fly from South Africa to Australia. He did this in a plane with no electronic instruments. In some places they had diesel, in some places they had gasoline, and he had to rebuild the engine according to whatever fuel they had.
Just for exploration, just a quest for curiosity. Seems to run in the family.
Yeah, I guess so.
He was prepared to sacrifice everything, his entire fortune, to get a rocket into orbit.
My second or third trip back from Russia, I was like, whoa, there's got to be a way to solve this rocket problem. I started reading a lot of books on rockets and did sort of a first principles analysis of a rocket, just broke down the materials that are in a rocket, what would it cost to buy those materials,
versus the price of the rocket, and there's a gigantic difference between the raw material cost of the rocket and the finished cost of the rocket.
There are people who say that the company cannot survive without you.
I don't think that's true, yeah.
There are people who say the company cannot survive with you.
I definitely feel stressed. Yeah, it's like it's been incredibly difficult and painful the last several months.
Mm-hmm. Painful?
Absolutely, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sleeping on the factory floor, not because I think that's like a fun place to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You know, terrible.
Sleeping on the factory floor why are you doing that?
Because I didn't have time to go home and shower. I sleep on the couch over there.
So you're just laying here on the couch?
Yeah.
It's that simple?
Yes. I don't believe like people should be experiencing hardship while the CEO is like off on vacation.
The truth is stranger than fiction.
Okay, this is why it's important, and even if the odds are that it won't succeed, it's worth trying to do it. Then I think you can create a great company.
The further you zoom out and the greater the span of time that you look at, the things that seem important in the moment fade away, and the things that are truly significant are still there.
What is it that you have that so many people who are unbelievably brilliant at engineering or are incredibly good managers or bold business people, or what have you, what is it that you have, do you think, that enables you to make this stuff happen?
When I was a little kid, I was really scared of the dark. But then I sort of came to understand, okay, well, dark just means really the absence of photons in the visible wavelength.
But they bring light to the dark, and they show us the universe.
And Elon said, darkness is merely the absence of light.
Then I thought, well, it's really silly to be afraid of a lack of photons. Then I wasn't afraid of the dark anymore after that.
Yeah, I had sort of a dark childhood. It wasn't good. When I read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that sort of highlighted the point that very often the issue is understanding what questions to ask. And if you can properly frame the question, then the answer is the easy part.
The genesis of SpaceX was not to create a company, but really how do we get NASA's budget to be bigger? That was initially the goal. I came up with this small philanthropic mission, which would be to send a small greenhouse to the surface of Mars. It's called Mars Oasis. Upon landing, the seeds would be in dehydrated nutrient gel, hydrated upon landing, and you'd have this little greenhouse, and then the money shot would be green plants against a red background.
Things that expand the scope and scale of human consciousness and allow us to better ask questions and achieve greater enlightenment. Those are good things. And so that's sort of what can we do that's going to most likely lead to that.
If we are able to do this philanthropic mission and it generates a lot of will to go to Mars, that's not going to matter if there's no way.
The problem people have, a lot of the analysts, is they kind of look in the rearview mirror instead of looking at the front windscreen.
What do you mean by that?
This has very frequently been why people have underestimated Tesla, because they would look at what Tesla's done in the past and use that as proxy for what we're able to do in the future.
Look, he may be the best we have in terms of when you look at what companies are doing, but I think that Elon Musk needs to be preserved.
And Tesla almost didn't succeed, came very close to failure. Then if you succeed, then after a long time, you will finally get back to happiness.
Life's got to be about more than just solving problems. You want to get up in the morning and say, yes, I'm looking forward to that thing happening.
There are Australians today wondering if they can even turn on their lights. There are Australians today wondering, well, should we go without some food?
Sure.
That's just not something you would ever expect.
I did not expect that. We work harder.
Australian households could not get through watching one episode of Australia's Ninja Warrior with this big battery.
When you get a return tweet from Elon saying, yeah, what did you think?
Sweet.
You thought I was joking.
He says it's going to happen. Let's make it happen.
By all means, have the world's biggest battery, have the world's biggest banana, have the world's biggest prawn.
You have to do these things that really get the world's attention. Otherwise, they just don't believe you.
The naysayers said it was a waste of money, but this big battery is already playing a key role in stabilising the grid. And it's doing so with a speed, precision and agility that's never been seen before.
But first we want to talk about the IPO of the day, and it's Tesla. Listing here at NASDAQ starting at $17 a share. Big day for CEO Elon Musk. There are a lot of people who have looked at your IPO who have told me, you know what, I'm not sure that this is a smart investment. Our own Jim Cramer yesterday said, I'm not sure that Tesla has a business plan that's going to work. It's not a smart investment. What do you say to the skeptics who look at where Tesla is?
Well, I think people at this point ought to be a little bit more optimistic about the future of Tesla.
The key is to have a product that people will love. You'll talk about the things that you love.
Because we've confounded the critics at every turn. So at a certain point, people have to get tired of being wrong.
How have you done this? These projects are these PayPal, SolarCity, Tesla, SpaceX, they're so spectacularly different. They're such ambitious projects at scale. How on earth has one person been able to innovate in this way? What is it about you?
I'm really curious about how in the world he manages to do multiple impossible things, because doing one impossible thing is impossible, but doing like 5 impossible things is the product of 5 impossibilities, and that just seems like hyper impossible. But he's managed it. I mean, think about it. Think about what he did. He built an electric car, which is like hard, and then he built a rocket, and then he blasted the car into space on his rocket.
The Tesla Roadster, I think a lot of people are familiar with that. That's the 2-seater sports car. In fact, my car, which is production unit 1, is parked outside.
Like that. That's not real. That doesn't happen.
The goal of this was to inspire you, make you believe again, just as people believed in the Apollo era that anything's possible.
It's more than just a boy with a toy. We're talking about a man that sees a gap. He sees a hole, and he knows that technology can fill the hole. But timing is everything. You jump in too early, the technology is not ready. You go in too late, you slow, you blow. So he knows when to jump in terms of billing, cyberspace and billing technology with PayPal, reusable rockets with SpaceX. He knows when to jump in.
If you use the lens of history and you zoom out far, I think you can distinguish the less important from the more important. And if you zoom out really far and look at the 4 billion year history of Earth and the evolution of life itself, and say what are the major milestones in the evolution of life itself. Obviously there's single-celled life, multicellular life, there's differentiation of plants and animals, there's life going from the oceans to land, there's mammals and consciousness, just maybe a half a dozen or so really big milestones in the history of life. And I think on that scale it would also fit the expansion of life to multiple planets. We've got something that's so important that it would fit on it'd be one of the half dozen or so most important milestones in the history of life itself. That's pretty darn important. And it goes beyond the parochial concerns of humanity. It's something that is of importance to life in general. So that's why I think it's important to do. And this is the first time in the 4 billion year history of Earth that it's been possible.
Earth is the cradle of humanity. You cannot stay in the cradle forever. It is time to go forth, become a star-faring civilization, be out there among the stars, expand the scope and scale of human consciousness.
So how long will it remain possible?
I find that incredibly exciting. That makes me glad to be alive. I hope you feel the same way. There are a lot of negative things in the world. There's a lot of terrible things that are happening all over the world, all the time. There are lots of problems that need to get solved. There's lots of things that are miserable and kind of get you down. But life cannot just be about solving one miserable problem after another.
I could go and buy one of the islands in the Bahamas and turn it into my personal fiefdom. Well, I'm much more interested in trying to build and create a new company.
Need to be things that inspire you, that make you glad to wake up in the morning and be part of humanity.
Way back when we created the company, we said we'd build the Tesla Roadster. They said it was impossible, and that even if we did build it, nobody would buy it. Then I said we'd build a more affordable car with the Model S. We did that. Again, we were told that's impossible. I was called a fraud and a liar, and it was not going to happen. This is all untrue. Okay, famous last words.
Tesla's going to put thousands of these cars on the road. But beyond that, really what matters is, are we making a difference in the world? And for us to make a difference in the world, we have to build a lot of cars. Until we see every car on the road being electric, we will not stop. This is really just the beginning of the beginning. You want to do projects that are inspiring and that make people excited about the future.
Which is to always go beyond memorizing formulas, passing tests, to always go deep into the underlying principles of a subject, to track any problem down to the root cause buried in the dirt, in the dark. And I would add to that and say, be brave enough, be bold enough, and be insane enough to see things more completely, more vividly, more fully than everybody else around you. And refuse to look away from what you see and what you know, even if people want to burn you at the stake.
I seem to have a high innate drive. And that's been true even since I was a little kid. I really had a very strong drive. Did all sorts of risky things when I was a kid that why did I do those things? They're crazy.
Yeah, I actually don't care at all about money, at all. But I do care about us becoming a spacefaring civilization. Yeah. And I do know that if we don't achieve full and rapid reusability, it will not happen. Yeah. And so that's the only reason I actually want money at all.
I think I feel fear quite strongly. If what I'm doing I think is important enough, then I just override the fear.
Going and setting up a base on Mars would just be the greatest adventure ever. Either we are a multi-planet species and out there exploring the stars, or we are a single planet species waiting around for some eventual extinction event. I think wishful thinking is innate in the human brain. If need be, I'm prepared to fund this all the way until SpaceX is the world's top launch company. Absolutely.
I think it's important that we become a spacefaring civilization and be out there among the stars. And I think that's one of the things that makes people excited about the future. And we want the things that are in science fiction novels and movies not to be science fiction forever. We want them to be real one day. Why do it?
I just kept wondering why we were not making progress towards sending people to Mars, why we didn't have a base on the moon, and year after year. It was just getting me down. I look at the NASA website. Where does it say when we're going to Mars? It doesn't.
I'd like to see humanity go beyond Earth and have people on Mars. That would be really great. And to see widespread adoption of electric vehicles and renewable energy.
What do we do about the press? I mean, the Wall Street Journal reporters get up in the morning, sell Apple short, and then go write stories about us. And it's clear that it's a perception versus reality problem.
Yeah.
They don't know about operating systems. They don't know anything about tools. They don't know what's going on in the future. They don't know that we're building icebergs, and you build them from the bottom up.
I believe I'm representative of the vast majority of Tesla owners who are super happy with the company and the product, and we think that the next car we're going to get is going to be another Tesla. But that's not what we read in the mainstream media. What's the plan to put more energy behind the marketing communications and take this issue head on so that the true great American success story gets told?
It's the most crazy disinformation campaign I've ever seen.
I'm sure that a lot of you have had this experience where you're changing, you're growing as a person, and people tend to treat you like you were 18 months ago. And it's really frustrating sometimes when you're growing up and you're becoming more capable and you've solved, maybe you had some personality quirks you've kind of gotten over, whatever it may be, and people still treat you like you were a year to 18 months ago. It can be very frustrating. Well, it's the same with a company. It's the same with the press. The press is going to have a lag time. And the best thing that we can do about the press is to embrace them, do the best we can to educate them about the strategy, but to keep our eye on the prize, and that is turning out some great products, communicating directly with our customers as best we can, getting the community of people that are going to make this stuff successful like yourselves in the loop so you know everything, and just marching forward one foot in front of the other. And the press will take care of it. It's like the stock price. The press and the stock price will take care of themselves by the end.
Really what matters is, are we making a difference in the world? And for us to make a difference in the world, we have to build a lot of cars. Until we see every car on the road being electric, we will not stop.
This is really just the first step for SpaceX. We've shown we can get to orbit. It's really just the first step for SpaceX.
If things had just gone a little bit the other way, both companies would be dead. And I like one of the most difficult choices I have ever faced in life was in 2008. I think I had maybe $30 million left, or $30 or $40 million left in 2008. And I had two choices. I could put it all into one company, and then the other company would definitely die. Or split it between the two companies. But if I split it between the two companies, then both might die. When you put your blood, sweat, and tears into creating something, or building something, it's like a child. And so it's like, which one am I going to let one starve to death? I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I split the money between the two. Fortunately, thank goodness, they both came through.
I never thought I was someone who's capable of a nervous breakdown, but I think I came as close as I'll ever come on December 22nd.
And we almost lost everything back in 2008. I think things are better these days, but for many years there, it was very painful.
How close to death did you come?
Within single-digit weeks.
22 hours a day, or how many hours?
I was working, so 7 days a week, sleeping in the factory. I worked in the paint shop, general assembly, body shop.
Financially and maybe even emotionally.
I'll tell you what, that was definitely helpful. Yeah.
2 days later, on Christmas Eve, Tesla's investors decided to pour in more money.
You ever worry about yourself imploding? Like it's just too much?
Absolutely. No one should put this many hours into work. This is not good. And people should not work this hard. They should not do this. It's very painful.
Painful in what sense?
It hurts my brain and my heart. So this is not recommended for anyone. I just did it because if I didn't do it, then good chance Tesla would die.
I'm doing this because I think I have to, not because I want to.
He's a guy with unlimited ambition.
Ambition to do what?
Not a typical type of ambition. It's more like he just needs to be constantly, his mind just needs to be constantly fulfilled. And the problems that he takes on, therefore, need to become more and more complex over time in order to keep him interested.
If it's really important, then I will overcome the fear and just do it anyway.
drive overrides fear. Where will Tesla be in 10 years? You know?
And their mad skills and the mastery of their chosen subject matter, and they use it to put themselves on the line, unlike anybody else you'll ever meet. And it's this that allows them to open up windows into another deeper reality in which transformation is possible and things of awe happen on a regular basis.
Thanks to the hard work of basically, the SpaceX team, all you guys. I mean, that's really what got us to orbit there. And there are a lot of people that thought we couldn't do it. A lot, actually. But as the saying goes, fourth time's the charm, right? I mean, so I mean, this really means a lot to SpaceX. Obviously, I mean, getting to orbit, I mean, that's just a huge milestone. There's only a handful of countries on Earth that have done it. It's normally a country thing, not a company thing. So it's just an amazing achievement. My mind's kind of frazzled, so it's kind of hard for me to say anything. But man, definitely, this is one of the greatest days of my life, and I think probably for most people here. It's we've shown people we can do it, and this is just the first step in many. I mean, we're going to get Falcon 9 to orbit next year, get the Dragon spacecraft going. I mean, we're going to be taken over for the space shuttle when that retires. I mean, this is we're going to do a lot of things. Ultimately, I think even getting to Mars and things like that. So I think this is definitely the future of SpaceX is really great. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, because I mean, it's just like so freaking awesome. My mind's blown. So it just except just like to reaffirm, this is just the first step of many, and this really opens the doorway for us to get Falcon 9 going, get manned space flight. I mean, there's just so many cool things that are there in the future.
Elon, in our lifetimes, where will SpaceX take us, or where will humans go in space?
I'm very hopeful that humanity will have a base on the moon and a city on Mars in our lifetimes.
In our lifetimes?
Yes. All these things, I said we'd do them, we did it. I said we'd do it, we did it.
Before we were able to get the Roadster out, then they'd say, well, you couldn't possibly make that car work. And then when we made the car work, they'd say, well, nobody's going to buy it. And then people bought it. And then we announced the Model S, and so many people called bullshit on that. It was ridiculous. And yet, actually, we were able to bring it to market. And then when we brought it to market, they said, well, you're never going to be able to produce it at volume. And we did that. And then they said, you will never be able to make a profit. And then we did that in Q1. So I'm hopeful that people will observe that there's a trend here.